Cheers. Hey, y'all. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Robyn.
And what's going on in your world, Robyn?
Oh, Sunday afternoon.
The world in general.
In the world. Oh, very sad. Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. 87 of what, pancreatic cancer?
I believe it was, yes.
Yeah. Man, what a badass she was.
She was. Much respect. May not have, and whether or not you agreed with her on individual issues or rulings that she made or whatever, the talent must be respected. So, rest in peace. And
I don't know if it's talent or tenacity. That woman hid her pregnancy during a couple of her jobs so that she could actually work because women weren't allowed to during pregnancy. She fought for the rights of women like pretty much her entire career.
Sure. I mean talent with respect. I mean that like even somebody you disagree with politically. The example I like to give on that one is Bill Clinton. You may not like Bill Clinton's policies, and you may not like him as a person, and more and more people now these days are starting to dislike him because of allegations or whatever. But the talent as a I'm blanking on the freaking word here. Politician. Sorry. Why did I lose politician? I'm a freaking...
Why are we talking about Bill Clinton?
I'm going to get into that. You have to respect his talent as a politician, whether or not you agree with him. So, same thing with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The talent that she had in her career coming up, that wasn't luck. That was,
that was hard work. That was tenacity.
Right.
Yeah, she was amazing.
I didn't realize she had hid the pregnancies.
Yeah, she... her husband went to law school. She was admitted after him. One of her first law professors asked why she thought she had the right to take the place of a boy or a man in law school. And then she could not get a job when she was pregnant, so she hid her pregnancies. And she was a tiny woman, so that must have been fun.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, she had to fight. I mean, that was an uphill battle for her. So the fact that she went on to make it so that women could open a checking account without a man, which...
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh my God, yeah. That was a thing up until, the 80s?
What?
Yes, and it was hard or impossible for women to get a mortgage in a lot of places without a man. She fought for that.
Okay,
and then, of course, the infamous Lily Ledbetter.
I can see the banking thing having stuck around a longer time, but the checking account? I mean, I'm sorry, the mortgage thing. Because it's hard to get a mortgage anyway, or supposed to be hard. I did not know about the checking account.
No, she ruled on a lot of instrumental stuff. Banking for women as a right.
You come from a banking background, so that's kind of in your wheelhouse.
Well, it's not my wheelhouse anymore, but she really did change a lot of things that we take for granted. Women in sports, women being allowed to go to academies and universities they weren't allowed to. VMI was one of the ones that I think she had a Supreme Court ruling on.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was back in my day. Yes.
Well, and like
Goodyear,
early 90s. Yeah, and Goodyear tires. She actually was one of the, I don't know if it was a majority vote or a dissenting vote, but she was one of those that Lily Ledbetter sued Goodyear tires over unequal pay, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg was instrumental in that, and they went on to years later have the Lily Ledbetter Act under Obama. But I think, and looking at that, I almost wonder if, I know Goodyear was under fire recently for bending over backwards to be socially aware with their Black Lives Matter statements and not allowing people to wear certain things and to wear other things.
Yes.
I think that was probably left over from the Lily Ledbetter days because they screwed up so badly in the past that they were
trying to overcorrect.
Yeah, and so they may have overcorrected. But looking at that, there are things that she did that even have ramifications and reverberate today. So
very interesting. The first real world job I had was for a woman, Ruth Davis, rest in peace, who was a little bit older, but was not allowed to get into MIT back in the day. And she wound up getting her doctorate in math, and she was a consultant for a number of presidents and was an undersecretary of energy and on the board of many different companies, and she was kind of a trailblazer in her own right, especially in things like the internet as we know it now. And she knew Bill Gates before he was Bill Gates, actually. Sponsored him for some event or some award that he got before Congress before he was ever famous. So knew him back in the day, and so she was that same. She's a little bit older, I think, than Ginsburg would have been. but wasn't allowed to get into certain colleges, so she had to get into state college, and But
so that's within.
She set the world on fire in her own right, though.
Well, that's within, if not our lifetime, it's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the things that we take for granted, like it would never occur to me to walk into a bank and have to have a man co-sign with me. But that was not that long ago. And that was literally in our lifetime.
Our parents' generation, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So she did a lot, whether you agree with her politics or not. And I think that she was actually, I know she was considered to be a liberal on the bench, but she didn't always vote liberal.
Right, and a lot of them don't.
Thoughtful. No, she was pretty thoughtful, and it's just like sometimes the more conservative ones surprise their side with their
exactly
votes.
Right.
And
that
it's
happens.
because I think they actually look at the Constitution and at the precedents for what they vote. So,
and that's my biggest thing for any Supreme Court nominee. I don't care who nominates them. I don't care who the president is that nominates them. The job of the Supreme Court is to look at whatever the case is before them, how it applies to the Constitution, or the Constitution applies to it, whether it's a law or a lawsuit or a death row case or whatever. Is this constitutional, yes or no? How does this, go back and forth? And it's supposed to be even-handed for everybody. And that's why you've had some conservative appointed judges dissent and get cut the other direction, much to the, John Roberts has done that.
Well, and I think they have to look at the precedent before them and the precedent they set.
And it's not always the popular answer either.
No, and it shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. They shouldn't be bending to popularity. That shouldn't be.
Agreed,
the thing.
100%.
So another female trailblazer. There was a new female CEO of a railroad company. What's her name?
Honestly, I forgot. Okay. So Burlington
that's a big deal.
Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad, owned by Warren Buffett, just appointed their first ever female CEO, and the reason this is important, or kind of a big deal, she's the first ever CEO of a railway ever in America. And if that sounds like it would be a shocking thing, but there aren't that many railroads anymore. So you got to figure back when they first started, back in the old railroad days of the Wild West, it was entirely male dominated.
Catherine Farmer,
good catch. And congratulations to Catherine Farmer for being the first CEO of a railroad.
First
female CEO of a railroad, and not just any little railroad. This is Burlington Northern Santa Fe. They're one of the biggest ones in the country, if not the biggest.
Well, you say there's not many railroads, but they are still quite important, as evidenced by the coal going back and forth all day in our little town.
And the windmill fan blades we see going the other direction.
God, so many fan blades.
Yep.
Yeah.
All the time.
I used to think they were cool and they passed by. Now I'm like, oh, that's a long train I have to wait for.
Well, it takes, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but it takes it's over 2 rail cars in length for each individual blade, and each windmill has 3 blades. So the carbon footprint of the windmills is still quite high. So that's a subject for a different day, but it takes a lot of energy and effort to get an individual fan blade on an individual windmill to the wind farm and get that done. So you're right, those are some long trains. They go on forever.
And ever. And
God help you if you're behind an 18-wheeler pulling one of those things too, because they have to use.
I've never seen a truck pull one.
Okay, so if you're ever driving east to west out in Texas, you don't see it but back in the heyday of them building all of the wind farms from the southern panhandle of Texas going north, if you got behind one of those guys, it was a while to get around them. They had to have a vehicle out in front of them.
I'm sure.
And then is the wide load thing coming, and then chase vehicle behind each individual truck, and you would usually have three or more trucks in a convoy going. So you're talking about.
So you might as well just pull over.
May as well wait your turn. May as well pull over, go get something to eat, go to the bathroom,
because there's a Buc-ee's.
And they can't go that fast. And supposedly, you got a friend that told me about this. One of them tried to go through a town once, around a town square, and I believe it was Mason, Texas.
Did he get stuck?
No, they knocked over a beloved sculpture. The fan blade.
Hopefully it was
so when they made the turn,
Civil War.
No, this was a cowboy. I've seen this. It's just a sculpture of a cowboy.
Oh, that's sad.
Anybody's welcome to check my math on this.
If it was a Confederate soldier,
no, it was not a Confederate soldier. So there was not a social justice moment here. I'm sorry. It was just a regular cowboy, as I understand it. And they knocked the thing over. And so windmill fan blades going through small towns got real unpopular.
Wow.
So yeah, you get behind a couple of those things, you're going to be waiting a while.
Maybe that's why they're all on the trains now.
Well, they can do trains up to a point, but then you've got to get them off of the rails and then out to the farm. And that's where sometimes the nearest railhead could be a good ways.
Okay, I don't understand. When we see like a loan, doesn't it only work if there are numerous fans? Because occasionally I see a lone one out on the horizon, and I'm like, what good does that do?
I was curious about this, so I started doing some unscientific wild-ass research. An individual windmill farm, it is what the information said, but it didn't say how many windmills that is. It just said a windmill farm can power approximately 75,000 homes when the wind's blowing and everything's going right? I don't know how many windmills are in an individual windmill farm that could be subject to interpretation, because if you're around Sweetwater, Texas, that's all you see is windmill farms. So is 640 acres a windmill farm, or is it, what are we dealing with here?
Well, and I've read, and I don't have it pulled up, so I don't have the facts in front of me, but I've read that the Panhandle alone can power like 15 to 20% of America with their wind.
If the wind's blowing full time.
But the wind does blow out there.
It blows
pretty
a lot.
much
Yes.
full time.
If you want to
Having been raised in West Texas,
yes.
I can say it blows out there pretty much.
If you're ever curious to know what it feels like to stand in a hairdryer, go stand in West Texas and just open your arms and stand there.
Yeah, seriously. So I'd be curious to know. I should find out if my facts are true. That was several years ago.
Right.
Actually, that was several years ago when I was trying to convince my ex-husband that we should buy land in the middle of nowhere in the Panhandle of West Texas. So I still stand by that would have been a moneymaker.
If they put the windmill up there, sure.
But maybe not water rights, but wind, yes.
Yeah, water would be an issue, and you can't do much else with it. So that's some land it takes some tough individuals. What are you drinking, by the way?
Oh my God, the most basic bitch thing since White Claw came out.
If we can segue a little bit here, go ahead.
It's called Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey.
And do tell us about this Screwball whiskey. And by the way, I can't judge too much on you being basic bitch and drinking the peanut butter whiskey, because I'm drinking it too.
Okay, so the front of it says, "To the Misfits, Black Sheep, and Screwballs." And it seriously tastes like peanut butter whiskey. And the only thing I can think that would be better is if you put it with ice cream.
Yes.
But I said no when you asked if I wanted to go get ice cream. I was good, and I said no. So we're drinking it just over ice. It's delicious.
I gotta say, it does taste pretty good.
I may have suggested that we stop and get grape soda, which I have never bought in my entire life. But I was like, it could be like peanut butter and jelly. But now that I think about it, that could go horribly wrong because that is sweet.
This week, I'll get us a 16 ounce.
What, like a knee high?
Like a knee high. Do they still make knee high?
I don't know.
Can you get knee high?
I don't know.
My granddad had a knee high grape soda clock in his house from when they owned gas stations back in the day. I don't know where that clock is, but I need to make it my mission to find it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That is cool.
Oh, you could get Big Red.
Do not tease me, madam. Big Red.
Again, that could go horribly wrong or be dangerously right.
It could taste horrible and you spit it out of your mouth, or it could be so good
that we wake up the next morning with a really bad
Nobody
hangover.
goes to work the next day.
Yeah.
Have you ever had peanut butter and pancakes?
Are you kidding? I created that.
Oh, you created that.
Yeah.
That's your thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Peanut butter and syrup. You mix it in a big, gross mush. And yeah, that's magic.
I was a full-blown adult before I knew about the peanut butter and pancakes.
I don't think I could eat pancakes without peanut butter until I was an adult. And even then, it was only if I was being polite and someone made them. I thought you had to have peanut butter on pancakes.
Interesting. I was seriously, I heard about it. I was in the officer's dining room of whatever prison I was working in at the time, and I was like, well, what the hell, I'll try it. Breakfast in prison is usually pretty good, actually. So...
You gave them peanut butter?
No, they had peanut butter. Giant. Funniest thing I ever saw in a prison ever. Funniest, most humorous moment. Real quick, prison story. The ship lieutenant caught 2 offenders trying to sneak a big tub of peanut butter out. And I want you to imagine this is a bigger tub of peanut butter than you would even find at like Sam's or Costco. Like this is industrial size, right? He caught him stealing it. Rather than write them up or punish them for it, like, take away privileges or whatever, he gave them each a spoon and made them stand there and eat all of that peanut butter, and they couldn't leave until they were done. And I'm talking about...
Okay, that's not funny.
That's
cruel.
Hours later, I walked by there, And I didn't know what it was at first. Like hours later, I happened to go back by there, and they're still standing there spooning that peanut butter. And I asked what the deal was, and somebody told me it was hilarious. Yeah,
You say hilarious, and I'm like, I bet those men never ate
I
peanut
bet
butter
they didn't
again.
eat peanut
I bet
butter
their
to
kids
this
didn't
day.
eat peanut butter.
Nope.
I bet their grandkids didn't eat peanut
no,
butter.
they don't. They're still locked up. They were on the Ferguson unit. They're probably still incarcerated. So
I bet they still steer clear of the peanut butter.
I bet they do. Speaking of people doing illegal stuff, you just before we started recording, went the whole FinCEN thing.
Oh yeah, that was so. Usually, big news doesn't break over the weekend, so
Right.
I think it'll be huge news tomorrow. But apparently, some papers, 2,500 papers, were
Yes.
leaked. I think today or last night. Showing that for almost 2 decades, dozens of big names that we all recognize, different banks, let trillions of dollars slide through. Russian oligarchs, mafia, just your basic bad guy money laundering. Names we all recognize: Deutsche Bank, HB. What is that?
HSBC. Yes.
Thank you, Mortgage Bank. JP Morgan. There were a lot of names, and they say there are going to be more names coming up as the papers continue to be looked at.
I read that. I went on the BBC website and looked at it, like you were talking about. Yeah, definitely some Russian oligarchs that have U.S. sanctions against them, and regular name brand banks that everybody's heard of, Deutsche Bank and J.P. Morgan, and
Well,
all
let's
that.
be honest. Deutsche Bank has been
They do
bad.
shady-
They've
they
been
do
a
some
bad
shady business.
player since. They were part of the Nazi Party.
Yes.
And so they've been bad for many, many years. We shouldn't be surprised. But JP Morgan Chase, 2017, they were actually arguing against money laundering laws. They were saying that the money laundering laws needed to be loosened and overhauled. So kind of funny that while they were arguing for that, they were arguing for change of the laws that were policing them. They were actually doing the bad guy stuff.
Here, I'll be honest with you, this is what I find funny. Okay? And it's not funny, it's kind of one of those things that this is done accidentally on purpose. This news came out during the same weekend of the Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies / the week before she could possibly have, or the president could possibly appoint a successor. That's all that's going to be in the news for the next week. So we got this, what should be a huge international scandal that people
it may be
should be
overtaken.
paying attention to, that really, really should be have serious governments around the world on their toes about this stuff. Let's drop it out there real quick. But Monday or Tuesday, is Trump going to, appoint a successor or,
Which, let's circle back to that, but let's stick to this just a little
But
bit.
you see what I'm
because-
saying?
Yeah,
it got
absolutely.
dropped. It is.
They're
it is-
hoping nobody pays attention
Yes,
because there are
it's-
so many players in this. We're talking trillions of
Yes.
dollars. And trillions is impossible for any of us to conceptualize because we can't even, and I've read that the human mind can't go really beyond hundreds of thousands. We think we can go to millions, but we really can't go to billions. Like, we cannot
Right.
understand how much that is.
Right.
So then when we go to trillions,
Right. Well, billions gets thrown around so much because there are so many more billionaires now than there used to be. When you and I were in high school, the only billionaire in the U.S. that I'm aware of at the time was Ross Perot. And he was only worth like 1 or 2 billion.
right.
Which seems like,
And now you've got Jeff Bezos, who
Yeah.
is estimated to be a trillionaire by what, 2021?
something like that.
So-
every rapper and actor thinks they're a billionaire because they've got a clothing line or something, and it's
Yeah.
not real. That isn't real. The
No.
Kardashians are not
There
billionaires.
are still not a lot of billionaires. I can't
No.
speak for the Kardashians because I ignore them. But but there are not a lot of billionaires and trillionaires. Jeff Bezos will be the first trillionaire
Right.
as an individual. Trillion is a lot of money. So when these banks are laundering trillions of dollars,
Right.
we need to pay attention to that. And especially if they're lobbying against all of the regulations that have been put in place in the last 10 years.
Right.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal, as their hand is in the cookie jar.
So it's a personal theory of mine that a lot of scandals get leaked. One, Friday after 3 p.m. on a Friday during the weekend. Also during football season. If you go back and look at a lot of the huge major scandals that broke or came out, a lot of them happen to be during football season when people aren't paying attention. Surprise, surprise. I wonder why I'm against the NFL. I'm not against the NFL.
I don't know what that has to do with this.
Because it's the shiny object everybody else is looking at
but
over
nobody,
the weekend.
Yeah, nobody else is looking at this.
Unless you're
but
paying
it's
attention.
not because of football. It's because of Ruth Bader Ginsburg dying.
Also, football is back.
Yeah, but nobody is looking at this because it's still Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Right. And so we got a Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died. Sports is back in full swing. So we need to drop this and we need to let the people know about it so it's technically out there.
I've heard your sports theory, and I tend to agree with it.
It's a shiny object.
I don't think it applies here because not as many people are looking at sports, apparently. But I think that this has definitely gotten lost in the shuffle. I'll be curious how it plays out tomorrow morning, and I'll be curious as more and more banks' names are released.
So legit banks are laundering money for mafia
Literal
types, crime
mafias,
lords, yes,
oligarchs,
yep,
rogue nations. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal.
Yep, it's a major big deal because
and
some of those
banks have some of the biggest lobbies in DC.
Yep, exactly
so
right.
They're right behind the NRA,
and a lot of them hold your mortgage. So
yeah, you had a mortguage with
HSBC, and sometimes you think it's your local banker, your down the road bank, the guy that you go to church with, or whatever else. But that bank eventually sells those mortgages.
Oh, they usually sell them, and I speak from experience. They usually sell them before the ink is dry on the papers you sign.
Right.
Like literally, they sell them. They don't even hold them long enough to give you a book because used to like when I bought my first house 23 years ago, you got a book from a bank and you paid monthly and you paid that bank and we paid them for several years. And now I know if I go in and like when I bought my house, I knew I didn't even have to worry about buying or about paying the mortgage company that I signed with. I knew it would be a different mortgage company by the time my first mortgage was due. And it's the big ones that end up taking it.
Right.
So
it's very possible that people listening to this, some of the banks that hold their mortgage, and they may not even know.
Well, and JP Morgan Chase is huge as far as financing cars, credit cards.
Right.
They have their fingers in a lot of different things.
Yes, they do.
So the fact that they were the ones actively asking for overhauls while they were laundering money is interesting. And there'll probably be a hand slap.
So they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar?
Yeah, and they probably will get their hand slapped because even if they get $1 million fine in the grand scheme of things, that is a mosquito bite.
It's worth it to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely worth it to them. Speaking of cookie jar, we got cookies this week.
Oh, we did get cookies.
And this was so sweet. First off, major shout out to the person we went to high school with, Kimberly King Hill, sent us a box of cookies. Thank you so much.
Peanut butter cookies.
Peanut butter and chocolate chip. I've tried both. She calls her Coach Mama's Sweets. So she sent us a...
you can post that on
Albany, Texas. I'm going to take a picture of this.
Yeah.
I need to post it on Instagram. How to reach her and get cookies and all that, but phone number and all that. But she sent, and they were phenomenal. And she sent it through the mail. It took them several days to get here.
That was probably because it had Trump 2020 on the box.
And she wrote
so they
Trump
may have
2020 on it. And I appreciate that, Kim. Thank you so much. But they were phenomenal. And if you dip them in milk, they are extremely good. So Robyn's shaking her head right now, pinching her eyes closed that we have a Trump 2020 box of cookies in the kitchen now.
Cookies were delicious.
Cookies were delicious. So,
and my teenage son thanks you.
Yes, they were phenomenal. They just you stick them in a tall cold glass of milk, and go from there.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
You're not approving at all.
No, I'm just like, okay, we're out of cookies, so why are we still talking about cookies?
Because I liked them. I'm not gaslighting at all.
Oh my God, that is such a shitty segue.
Sorry, had to. I'm not telling you you're crazy.
No, God, that was a bad segue. Are we going to get on our high horses again and
Let's
talk
do
about,
that.
Okay.
I love getting on my high horse.
There are certain terms that now that we're all on the Facebook.
What?
The Facebook.
The Facebook? Awesome.
Yes, and if you guys haven't seen Social Dilemma, my God, what have you been doing for the past week? Watch it.
We told you to watch it.
So watch it. But there are certain terms that I am so tired of hearing because people see them on Facebook and we all decide that we are armchair psychiatrists.
Yes.
And we use the terms narcissist gaslighter,
Yes.
and what else?
Sociopath.
Yes, my God. Not every ex in the world is a sociopath or a gaslighter or a narcissist.
Correct.
Because if so, then we are all of those things.
Yes.
I get so tired of those terms. Like, I can't tell you. And when someone is like, oh, my ex is a narcissist, I'm like, oh,
Right.
my God, what meme did you read on Facebook that
Right.
made you decide that?
100%. And formerly having been in the dating world,
Do not tell me your ex is a narcissist
No.
or a sociopath.
No.
Because I'm going
No.
to actually accuse you of the same thing.
No,
With Facebook names.
absolutely not. I
Okay.
would never say
Do
that.
not get your psychiatry from Facebook, people.
Exactly right. Just because you read an article
Or the Google.
Gaslighting is the one I'm hearing the most of. I mean, I'm hearing gaslighting. The Dixie Chicks came out with the song "Gaslighter" earlier this year.
You mean the chicks?
No. Time frame and context here. They were still the Dixie Chicks at that moment.
now they're the chicks.
Then they got woke. And they're just the chicks, which is supposed to be derogatory towards women anyway. I mean, do we call women chicks? Is that allowed?
I don't think it's derogatory against women. I think it's derogatory against whoever's saying it because it sounds so stupid.
So
If you're like, look at that chick over there,
band.
I'm like, oh, I'm judging you, not them.
So is it a good or a bad name for an all-girl band?
I really have no opinion about the band.
I never understood why they had Dixie in their name anyway. They're from Texas, which isn't Dixie. Argue with me all day. It's not Dixie.
I don't know. Are they from Texas?
Natalie Maines is, and so is her dad. And that's how Natalie Maines' dad is the producer Lloyd Maines. Lloyd Maines is a mega producer in Austin. That's how they got famous. So that's where that came from. But anyway, yeah. Okay, so I have, back when I was a single guy, and you'd obviously most people in the wheelhouse would be divorced at that point, and you would discuss exes. I heard a lot about narcissists. Ex-husbands and whatever else. So
to be fair, there are true narcissists out there.
They do exist.
There are true sociopaths, and people do truly get gaslighted. But on the daily,
right,
I am so tired of it.
Right.
And if one more person is like, oh, it's from a movie in the 1930s where the husband, I'm like, you haven't seen that movie. Shut up.
Exactly
until
right.
you watch that movie, you don't get to explain to me the movie.
Right. So, and true sociopaths and actual psychopaths are so rare in society.
Sociopaths are apparently more normal than psychopaths.
Right. Psychopaths are pretty rare.
Sociopaths tend to be actually very high achieving.
Right.
So, but again, if every ex is one, then I'm going to call
then
no.
every single person out there that's been divorced has to be. So, which one are you? Are you the narcissist? Or are you the sociopath? Are you the psychopath, crazy ex, whatever?
So let's just call a spade, and if you're talking about your ex, say, "Man, my ex was an asshole."
That's why I try to
and
make it.
And then move on, or don't say anything and move
right.
on.
That's the habit I try to develop very hard.
That's the ideal rule. It doesn't always happen, so just say, "Oh, he was a jerk," and move on.
Right.
Let's not armchair quarterback the whole thing.
Right.
I know I'm mixing metaphors. Sorry.
No, it's understandable because the other one that doesn't get used as much that I think, if I know anything about anything, is borderline personality disorder.
That one doesn't fit on a meme.
That's right. It's because it's a longer title. Yeah. So
it's not as catchy. Like 3 words. No.
Yes, but
there's no movie to attach that to.
Right.
Single white female, maybe. I don't know.
Good reference. It's been a while since I've seen that one. Borderline personality disorder. I was told to research it. That's all I'm going to say. But
don't do that.
I'm not doing anything. I'm just saying I was told to research it, and I did. So yeah, if every single date you go out on is with a divorced person, male or female, up, down, whatever, and all of the exes are always something, that might be indicative of the person you're sitting across from, not the ex.
Not the person you're sitting across from, the person in the mirror.
No.
So my mom has a saying that if you meet one asshole a day, fine.
Right.
If you meet 3 or 4 a day,
it's
you
you
really need to look in the mirror. I think that applies
I'm talking about if every single conversation you have with everybody that's ever been divorced, and they're sitting there dumping on the ex full time, right? You're out to dinner and you're talking about you've been married before,
yeah.
Right? But you are correct. If every person you meet, I agree, 100%.
I'm not correct. My mama is correct.
Your mama, shout out, is correct.
Actually, I have done some attitude checks because there are some days that I'm like, oh, so many jerks in the world. And then I'm like, oh, wait, maybe that's my attitude.
Is that anything, in your opinion, like, and I'm throwing this out there, a few, one or two girls I've known in my life who say they can't be friends with other girls because there's so much drama. That's why all their friends are guys. And I'm like, no, that's you. Is there anything like that?
I think women can be their own worst enemies sometimes. Mm-hmm. I think some women have been damaged in relationships with other women as friends, like in high school or college or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so they tend to come into things with a certain mindset. But I also think that the women that say they don't like drama are usually the ones who dive headfirst into drama. Yeah. So like any woman who's like, yes, women are so much drama, yes, is usually the capital D drama queen, in my experience.
100% agree.
Yeah.
The person I was thinking of, not an ex, by the way, was the last person that I heard say that. And I'm like, no, honey, it's you. Yeah. It's not.
Anytime. And I've told guy friends, like if a woman is like, I hate drama, I'm like, you better run.
Yes.
Because the person who says I hate drama is always the first one.
I should have learned that lesson a long time ago. But we live and learn. But yeah, 100% agree.
Are we going to talk, if we're going to talk about drama and women, are we going to talk about pumpkin spice lattes and
the Han Solo outfits, yes, knee-high boots, and your sweater vest? Don't you love that I taught you that? Yes!
Okay, so after Labor Day, and I'm guilty of it, and I know all of you women out there listening are guilty of it, so you can be mad at me, but it's true. If you're wearing tunics and tall boots, you are Han Soloing.
Especially if it's like still 90 degrees outside.
Yes, and if it's like pumpkin spice colored,
it's not fall yet.
Bonus points. It is fall.
I mean, in Texas, it's not fall yet.
Technically
in Colorado, it's fall. We're starting to get colors changing here.
I know. If we hadn't been such slugs, we should have gone and looked at the colors.
Today was just not a good day for us. But so I've got a funny story. I got a phone call about during the week.
Yeah, do tell.
From a friend of mine who is a police officer in College Station, Texas.
Why do you always say police?
Police?
Why can't you just say police? Police.
He's a law enforcement officer in
police.
College Station, Texas. And he pulls a guy over earlier this past week.
Okay.
He's listening to our podcast while he does it. Right?
That's awesome.
I know. Thank you for listening. I'm remiss to say his name. I don't want to get him in trouble. I don't want to say his name so bad.
Well, but don't, because what if he's not supposed to be listening to our
podcast?
Right.
Exactly right.
But thank you.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate it. Pulls this guy over, right? Smells weed, which I know, surprise, surprise, weed is still illegal in Texas. I know, right? It's really technically illegal everywhere.
Is it illegal, like having a horse in your house?
So no.
Or
Here's
wearing
what I
braids
asked
on
him.
Sunday?
I asked him about this. So it's still technically illegal, and if they catch you with like a ton of it, you're going to jail. But
I'm pretty sure a ton of it in Colorado will get you arrested.
Right. So I believe, and I forgot what their weights and measurements sliding scale is in this particular jurisdiction, but it depends on where you are in Texas as to how much they'll put up with.
I would love to hear from people listening because my experience, I've heard that edibles are an automatic felony in Texas.
That's possible.
But that anything else in moderation is like a misdemeanor.
Under a gram or 2 grams, I forgot, and I don't know my weights and measures on that, but whatever they find you with.
Under a gram is like it dropped in your floorboard and you didn't miss it.
So anyway, pulls the guy over, smells weed, probable cause. Cuffs the guy, sticks him in his cruiser, and I think now
our podcast's still going.
I know.
I wonder which one it was.
I don't know. He didn't tell me which episode.
I hope it was a good one.
So the suspect, the detainee at the moment, was sitting in the police vehicle, handcuffed, with our podcast going. This is amazing, right? So police officer is searching the vehicle, doesn't find any more weed, so decides to cut the guy a break. He smelled it, but he didn't find any more evidence. It's not worth it. Sends, uncuffs him. He did detain him, but he did not arrest him. Sent him on it, but before he leaves, the perp or the detainee said, "What?"
The driver.
The person driving the automobile, yes, asked what it was that he was listening to, and the police officer informed him about our podcast, and he goes, "Oh man!" And he wrote down all the information about us and gives it to the guy.
Okay, if the guy is listening,
yes,
message us, and I have something I'll send to you. It's not pot.
We're not sending. Just because we live in Colorado does not mean we're sending you weed, dude.
But I have a gift for you, so message us because that is hilarious.
You got to be able to describe the police officer, and believe me, I will know. Okay, I know this guy real well. So tell me what cop it was that pulled you over, and we got something we'll send you. But thank you for listening, because he said he was going to be checking us out. And I'm like, awesome. That's awesome. You talk about word of mouth.
Seriously.
Okay, also...
And your friend must be very nice.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so I got credit where credit is due. As law enforcement, as cops go, if you're ever in a jam and like things are bad, this is the guy you want coming to the door. I've never seen him lose his cool. He's tall, big dude. He's like what a cop should look like,
Right.
And just amazing person and good law enforcement, and didn't take the guy to jail unnecessarily, anything like that. Let him go. But we have a new listener now. Let us know about this. But I also want to say that was your free one. Next time,
yeah, don't get caught in Texas, man.
Don't be like OJ that got his free one and then got caught again later and wound up going to prison. Don't be that guy.
Seriously,
learn your life lesson here. And go on about your business, but definitely shoot us a message if you can find us. We're on Facebook and
that's hilarious
and all that. That is a funny story. We'll send you a free something, but you got to tell us what cop it was that did it, because I will know if you're lying. Just don't. I don't need the whole world saying, "Oh, it was me." No. I'm not.
And kudos to our cop friends.
And kudos to our cop friends for making the right decision.
Well, they have a hard job. So.
They do, especially here lately. So it's getting worse. So I have an announcement to make on a personal level.
Oh God, what?
I have a book coming out.
Oh, I know.
I know you've read it like 3 or 4 times and helped me edit the damn thing.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Lots of it. It's coming out. I don't have an exact date yet because I'm waiting on somebody else to get their part done as far as the art goes, but it's not their fault. We communicate all the time.
They're awesome.
They're an awesome person. Can't wait to give them credit for all the stuff they're doing. Should be out, I'm hoping, by the end of this month, maybe early next month. I've got to make sure everything goes right.
I'm going to say next month, but super exciting. It's a good book.
I'm going to trust your judgment.
I think it'll resonate with a lot of people. Even
yes.
I'm not going to say anything else. I was about to give a spoiler, but
no, go ahead.
No.
If anybody's going to give a spoiler, I would rather it be you. So go ahead.
I think it will resonate with people, even if they aren't runners. But any runners out there will love it. Anybody else, it may be enough to inspire them to take the first step.
It is involving running, which I have a pretty personal background in. So
yeah. So keep watching. He's posting stuff every day about it.
I'm trying to dribble out little tidbits here and there of stuff. So
you don't ever have to say the word dribble again.
Never?
That is an ugly word.
Dribble? It's not going to work?
That's like moist.
Oh!
Exactly.
Okay. Well, as usual, Robyn is correct.
And Ryan is right.
See y'all.
Bye, y'all.